Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I like to discuss the way Mone continues to attract the headlines. This time she's tying senior ministers from 2020 to her plight, including, of course, Rishi Sunak. Will she manage to sling enough mud to cause him problems in the new year, or will the Tories close ranks because so many of them are implicated? But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So just a little tangent at the start. I'm fine talking, but if my mouth doesn't always behave itself, it's because anaesthetic's wearing off. Very topically, I actually had a dentist appointment today for a filling. I'm one of the lucky ones with an NHS dentist. So, but anyway, back to the story. Incredibly quick recap on the timing of key events for the criminal investigation into Tory peer Michelle Mone and her husband, Doug Barrowman. So I first saw reports of a National Crime Agency investigation in, I think it was January 2022. Then in April of that year, we found out that their homes and offices had been raided. Since then, we've heard nothing. A year and a half of tumbleweed. Then, I think it was last month, it's quite recently, Mone and Barrowman admitted that they did have links to PPE MedPro. They'd denied this until then. This is the company involved in this scandal. Then last week, they launched a promotional video to try to rescue their reputation. Then on Sunday, there was an interview with the BBC broadcast in which they did themselves no favours, frankly. And you think, why after such a long period of radio silence are they now pushing messages to the public? I would speculate that the investigation seems to be going badly for them, that their lawyers are saying, yeah, you're in trouble here and we're probably not far away from charges being pressed. I would further speculate that Mone is seeking to get the government to lean on the NCA to drop the investigation. After all, they appeared to do this when it came to investigations into unlawful activities during the Brexit campaign. Very mysteriously, some Brexit groups who were found to have broken electoral law, and then it was sent to, because it doesn't necessarily mean someone has broken criminal law just because of that, just because your organisation has. But nonetheless, there's usually investigations, and those investigations mysteriously did not occur. But as I discussed on Sunday, I think the Tories are throwing her out of the airlock to distract from the rest of them. After all, Mone and Barrowman's PPE MedPro were given 2 contracts worth £203 million in total, and only one of those 2 contracts is being investigated. But there's known to have been billions of pounds worth of PPE fraud. Why aren't we hearing about more investigations? Why haven't more homes and offices been raided? So after Mone didn't get the desired response from her video and interview, whatever response she was looking for, she's now decided to complain about everyone else involved. Sling mud everywhere. And indeed, there are many involved. And it's not just people who took the public money and didn't provide the goods specified, like they are alleged to have done. Ministers allowed it to happen. Oh, sorry, did I say ministers allowed it to happen? Sorry, I meant encouraged it to happen. They set up the system. And it appears that the Tories are a little bit alarmed as well. How do I know they're alarmed? Dan Hodges of the Mail and other associated Tory shills have been trying to drag Labour into this. Oh, it's all very well them talking about audits now. Oh, they didn't in 2020, did they? Yes, they did. Oh, they wanted the government to get PP, whatever the cost. They didn't say anything about audits then. Yes, they did. But they also said all the PPE was being produced in China. Supply lines were absolutely jammed. What did you expect them to do? No. Let me explain exactly what happened. Labour were indeed asking why the government weren't sourcing PPE. They were complaining about the fact people in hospitals and care homes didn't have the PPE they needed. Where's these contracts? Where are the contracts? Also, not all of the PPE was being produced in China. In fact, there was established producers of PPE in the UK. I watched a documentary at the time which reported on British producers making PPE for countries in Europe, North America, and they said on camera they would prioritise NHS contracts if they got them, but they weren't getting them. These were established suppliers, right? Labour wanted to know why. And Dominic Raab, because Boris Johnson was ill at the time, I remember in the PMQs, Dominic Raab talking about the need for this due diligence. Oh, we've got to check people. We've got to just give money to anyone, you know. Oh, really? Because we now know that this was a lie told to Parliament. It later transpired that what ministers were actually doing was sort of putting a bit of a stop on the normal procurement channels and setting up what they called the high priority lane, more commonly known as the VIP lane. It featured Tory donors, actual Tories and their mates, people with no experience of sourcing PPE, including Michelle Mone and Doug Barrowman. They would get themselves put on this secret list for lucrative public contracts. No experience. Recent analysis has shown that PPE sourced on the VIP lane, when we actually got what we ordered, was 80% more expensive than that ordered at the same time through the normal channels. Because some normal channels were still operating, the government ultimately did have to get PPE, and they knew that giving all this money to their mates would sometimes get them the PPE they wanted and sometimes would not, right? So Mone is correct to say that ministers knew all about it. Not even speculation as far as I can tell. There's been a court case. The Good Law Project and others fought a judicial review which turned up evidence about, there's emails of civil servants being concerned about some of the people getting these contracts and being overruled by ministers. When the COVID inquiry gets to PPE procurement, because there is a module, I think it's module 6, PPE procurement, unfortunately it's not going to happen until 2025. I think we're going to see some serious shit uncovered. And it will be uncovered because Labour will be in government then. When the COVID inquiry asks for records to be handed over, there'll be no obstructions from the government then. Oh, take what you like, Starmer will be saying. What do you want? You can have it all. Everyone knew it was going on. We've seen documentary evidence that Matt Hancock was putting unsuitable people onto the VIP lane. Michael Gove ran the office, which managed the scheme, so he's in the frame. Rishi Sunak as Chancellor must have known what was happening with the payments he was authorising. And it would be inconceivable that Boris Johnson as Prime Minister would not have been fully aware before he became ill and after he recovered. And this is what makes Mone's recent attempts to drag others down with her so interesting. It's quite straightforward to demonstrate that senior ministers would have known exactly what was going on. After all, why do we put so much emphasis on Michelle Mone rather than her husband? Doug Barrowman organised it all from the business side. And he took the lion's share of that eye-watering £67 million profit. It wasn't Mone that ran away with that money. She got a lot of it. Barrowman got the most of it. So why are we putting the emphasis on Mone all the time? Because she was the Tory politician who got PPE MedPro put on the VIP lane. She was the one with the inside track, so to speak. And of course, she didn't have any authority in the Cabinet Office. She was just in the House of Lords. She wasn't a member of the government. So it would only have been possible for her to achieve that by talking personally to a senior minister and they would put it on the VIP lane. But is this a problem for Sunak or not? On the one hand, we know that there are rebels in his party who want to bring him down. They will be only too happy to use anything they can to trash his reputation. After all, these rebels could tell their colleagues that this scandal could cause the House of Cards to fall down at any moment. Like Partygate, this could be another Partygate. It all came out of the blue and it took no time at all to destroy Boris Johnson's reputation. Can MPs really risk keeping Sunak in place if the sword of Damocles is overhead? If it might all blow up when it's too late to put the election back any further? When they're so far behind in the polls, can they really risk having a leader with not so much a skeleton in their closet, but a suicide bomber? Imagine it all going pear-shaped once the election has been called. So the election's called, then all of a sudden it all comes out. Because remember with Partygate, it was reported in the press a long time after it happened. Long time. Someone had been sitting on that. Someone had been waiting for Boris Johnson to become vulnerable. It was the Owen Paterson scandal that made Johnson vulnerable. That's when they saw their moment. What if there's something like this waiting? You could absolutely tell a Tory MP that. What if this is waiting for Rishi Sunak, right? And they're waiting for the election to be called. And then and you're all committed then. And then it all blows up. What then? So you can see how rebels might persuade their colleagues to ditch Sunak in favour of someone who was not part of the scandal, who will be far removed from it. Kemi Badenoch, for example, one of the favourites to succeed him, wasn't even in cabinet at the time. She'll have lots of deniability on her side. But then there's another part of me that thinks even the rebels might close ranks over this one, because Boris Johnson surely was far more in the frame than Rishi Sunak, because he was Prime Minister at the time. And many of them want to engineer a return for their blundering hero. The last thing they want is to encourage yet another scandal. that affects Johnson. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. But Mone is really on a crusade here. It seems almost certain that she thinks she's in real trouble. That's the only way to explain this. And she's going to make sure that she doesn't go down alone. It'd be nice to have some entertainment while Parliament's in recess, won't it? But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.